Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm very happy today to present to you my countryman. We have been drinking the same water. So, as you may all know, our Eminent speaker series is one of the Staff Council initiatives. And we have tried many times to touch, very sensitive and valuable topics where they can be used in our daily work. Today we picked, the art, whether the art will become, one of our poverty reduction, pillars or no. So this we will be discovering it today during this session. I would like to welcome you all and thank you for being here with us. We are very happy to host you. And before I make any mistakes or talking too much, I wanted to thank our colleagues, Juan Pablo Davia, for being available to moderate this session. And also on your behalf, I thank Khalid for being also here with us today. And we will be very happy to hear his vision about the art and UNIDO projects. And we have the engineer with us here. So Juan Pablo, please, the floor is yours, and we will be watching and listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, those in the same time zone that we are. Good morning for those who are joining from the other side of the Atlantic, and I say good night if anyone is joining us from Asia and that other part. Thank you very much. First, thanks to Hassan and the Staff Council for this invitation, and also thank Khalid for his time here. It is really a pleasure for me to be here with you, and I'll try to do this as a talk, as a more friendly talk than a formal webinar or that. There's a lot that we would like to touch base. We have an excellent presenter, an excellent artist. I've been doing a bit of the homework that I need to do in order to present, and I have discovered many very good things, and we would like to extract that from Khalid this afternoon. First, I think we want to touch on the value chain of arts. How can arts contribute to the SDGs? As you know, we are a UN family, and we need to work in our technical assistance in our different policies and support to member countries and to everyone on how to achieve the best SDGs, and also to see how we can initiate or think about having a dynamic ecosystem on arts. What is needed, what can we get, and then a question that also we're taking advantage of today is the technological change. I mean, this meeting in another situation may have been conducted live, but now we have presenters, experts, and people joining from different parts of the world. And this is also the technology. What is the technology impact in the arts? So before starting, we have a couple of questions that we would like to pose. Stephen, if you can put to know a bit more about the audience, where are you joining from? That would also give us some insight on how to guide this and how to really get the best for you as participants. So from where are you joining us today? I think you can go to menti.com and use the code that is presented, 6089136. So from where are you joining us? I see people now joining more and more. So please go to menti.com with the code and answer. In the meantime, while you respond, as you know, we all work for UNIDO. There's a reason why we work for UNIDO. And just to have a little bit of insight on the audience and the people who I think are present. We have people from the field. I see someone from Brazil, and we work in different areas on technical system developing projects in the policy part. We have also colleagues from our administrative departments that deal with procurement, that deal with administrative issues, with human resources. So I think it's a very good mix of the people that we work in UNIDO. I don't know how many. You can use a separate browser to participate in this interactive survey. And you can see in the chat, that's the code as well. And you can see in the presentation. So we have people from Brazil, India. So good evening for those in India. And I guess many people is participating from Europe, Austria. Then while you fill out the survey, the question that we are going to ask is, so you can start thinking about your responses, is what does art mean to you? So just start reflecting on that, because that's the next question after we complete an overview where people are joining from. The next question is, what does art mean to you? So those who are just joining, you can see in the chat the link to answer the question, and we are asking all the audience, what does art mean to you? You can go to menti.com, the link is in the chat, and use the code that is there, also in the screen, on what is the, and put your responses, and we will continue with the and we see some of the key, this word map from the different responses. Freedom seems to be the most frequent. Creativity, inspiration. We're updating, I think Steve is updating. Creativity seems to be the more popular. Freedom, inspiration. Business, change, entertainment, spiritual communication, culture, creativity, inspiration. It's really good answers. And I think we can have the top three if you refresh: inspiration, freedom, creativity. I think those are the key, most common: lifestyle, change, development, entertainment, visual creative work. I'm not sure yet. Well, I think we can leave this so we can move forward. I see that inspiration, creativity, freedom are the most common answers, and definitely this will be keywords that will also lead and just be remember these words, because we will come back to these words: inspiration, creativity, freedom, communication throughout the presentation. So without further ado, let me have a brief introduction of our speaker. And I think the best is that we get to know our speaker. As you know, Khalid is a cartoonist. I will not say much because I will like Khalid to tell us a bit his journey, about his experience, about his work, all his journey to the point where we are here today, the different positions he has been working in different countries, and he has very exciting projects. So Khalid, without further ado, I would like to give you the floor. Tell us about yourself, about your journey, and your experiences and your projects. So Khalid,
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm very honored to be here. So thank you very much, JP and Hassan and Steve. We've spent 2 weeks arranging for this, and so I'm glad there's a lot of people. Yeah, so my name is Khalid Albaih. I'm from Sudan. I am a political cartoonist and an artist and a cultural producer. I worked for museums for the last decade in different parts of museums. I'm a writer as well. I write op-eds. I wrote for everyone from The Guardian to the BBC to Al Jazeera. Not a good writer, but you know, I try. So yeah, basically I was always into art as a child, and I think that kind of came from having difficulties reading and writing, and I think that was at the beginning. Of course, you know, I was just called slow in school and stuff, but now we figured out that it's actually dyslexia, you know, so it's like it had a name. So for me, I was always visual. I was always it was easier for me to communicate through art and through drawing. So I remember even growing up, I used to, like, in school, for me to understand mathematics or understand biology or chemistry, I had to draw it for me to understand how it works. And as well as, of course, getting introduced to comics and in the Arab world, in Sudan in the 90s, we had all these translated DC and Marvel comics, you know. So we had like Superman and Batman, but it was all in Arabic, you know, and it was translated, and some of them were translated in Egypt, some of them were translated in Iraq, some of them were translated in Syria. So it was really funny, you know, also seeing that, you know, they kind of just translated the words into, but the society kind of can't relate to it at all. It was like from a different world. And yeah, so, you know, growing up in a world that really doesn't have heroes at all. So I kind of resulted into like, comic book heroes, because, our politicians are corrupt, and we grew up always knowing that. And we always knew that, everything is watched. You can't do this, you can't do that. You can't even talk about politics on the phone. And, I come from a very political family, just like a lot of Sudanese people. And, my father was a diplomat. And I had an uncle who was a president at some point. And I had another uncle who was actually executed for leading the Communist Party in the 70s. So yeah, I always grew up trying to understand all these things, understand our society, understand what politics has to do with it, understand what does these words mean, Islamist and communist and so on. And so as I said, I was born in Romania, and that always kind of affected my life, because I always get like, what do you mean you're born in Romania? And you're so everybody thinks I have like a fake passport. And so it's really interesting kind of maneuvering through different cultures and different colors and so on. And the best way for me to express myself and express how I feel was always drawing and different kinds of art, So cartooning for me, though, really kind of came into my life when I was 13 or 14, when my father started buying these newspapers or magazines, actually Egyptian magazines. One is called Sabah al Khair, which means good morning. The other one called Rosul Yusuf, which is the name of the founder. And they're kind of like the New Yorker in Arabic. And so when I started seeing what political cartoons are doing, and this is when we moved to Doha and to Qatar, and we moved to Qatar really early on, because my father, just like thousands and thousands of Sudanese professionals, had to leave, and that made a huge brain drain in Sudan, and things started getting worse and worse since then. So cartoons kind of really were that connection between art, between comics, between communication of how I want to express myself, or how I want to talk about a certain something in the midst of all this censorship. So this is basically how I started doing cartoons.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's really interesting, and I think you really put it in a nutshell, all your experience. But let's try to dig a bit more on some of the areas. Let's look at the art, because you, as an artist, I understand you didn't study art as a primary at university. Am I wrong?
No, I studied some kind of art. I studied design, interior designing, and interior architecture, and later on I did Islamic art history. Mm-hmm. We can't study art. I mean, in my generation, it was very hard, and I think until now it's kind of very hard, coming from the global South as a whole, to study art, because that's always seen as something that's very privileged. And you know how it is for us, like your parents care for you until you can, and then until you can care for them, and then so it's always about getting a job that you can actually support your family and support your parents. And the arts and artists are always seen as a very crooky kind of image for the artist. So I couldn't really study art at all.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a reality in many developing countries, where art, or the ecosystem of art, is not that developed that will allow professionals to live, or so to survive, even to survive with that profession of art. It always has to be something in parallel. It has to be something, or you have to be on a very wealthy situation or wealthy family to really dedicate yourself completely into art. I think that's a key element that we can put into the equation.
Yeah.
Now, with the UN family, I mean, you know, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 SDGs. We can cluster them into those SDGs that aim to improve the environment, to improve the social, the people, the environment, the planet, the people, and the planet, the prosperity, and the people. So the economic, the environmental, and the social. Art, to your view, what do you think can be the key contribution of art to the SDGs? I mean, in any of these dimensions of people, the planet. Yes, what are you, to your view, to your experience, how do you think art can contribute to the achievement of the SDGs to be a better socially inclusive world, to have works, to end poverty, to care for the environment?
I mean, as I said, you know, I mean, you could see the main issue is that, you know, my parents wouldn't let me study art, right? Because there's no future in it. In Sudan, in the 1950s, we had one of the best art schools, even with today's standards in Africa. You know, we had a visual school called the Khartoum School, and you know, the artists, a few artists that came from that school, and the schools kind of from the same time, you know, they're still in museums all around the world. But if you're not that lucky, of course, you know, you're gonna end up doing very minimal art and doing, you know, more work in a governmental agency or something, or you know, the most famous job actually for any art graduate is being an art teacher. And then, you know, you're less and less into the actual practicing of art, and that's my issue as well. You know, even today, it's very hard for me to be an artist, right? So I think creating an economy around art, you know, a creative economy that can help, and that, you know, thankfully, actually, you know, this year is actually the UN Assembly has announced this year, you know, creative economy year for the sustainable goals, because they understood the importance of having that creativity, because art at the end of the day is about communication, and it's and you can plug in art as a main theme for all the sustainable goals, and this is the main way that it will reach to people, whether you're talking to people in, you know, North America, or, you know, Sweden, or you're talking to people in you know, Burkina Faso, or you're talking to people in New Zealand. It's art gets the message through because it's closer to the people. And again, you know, for me personally, the reason why I started doing political cartoons, you know, I didn't do, you know, painting, or I didn't do any of these things, which I do, but I look at myself as a political cartoonist because it's closer to people. I can communicate my message easier and faster, and, you know, I can speak to a professor in Harvard, and I can speak to an 8-year-old, and both of them will smile. So for me, that's the that's the thing that we can actually adapt into the SDGs, right? The communication, the use of that, and having a caliber of artists that their community trusts in them to deliver that message, right? Because they're closer to the community. They're not sitting in, you know, a high chair looking down at people, or talking about things that people can't relate to. You need, you know, an art is not only about a beautiful painting, or you know, art is actually about projects, about creating, right? And about, you know, having a creative way of looking at things.
Yes, you mentioned communication, and I think that's the key. I mean, communicating in the forms to change the perceptions, and definitely you said it somehow that with art you can build awareness, you can change the perceptions on how to address on the importance of each of the SDGs, and art changes perception, and perceptions changes people,
and it finds solutions. You know, it's innovative.
and find solutions. I mean, that building awareness, finding solutions to how to address, how to really care for the environment, how to end poverty, or how to make a business maybe more profitable through art, through branding, to this. And this is one of the contributions of art to the SDGs. And you said that this contributes to every SDG. And yes, it is indeed, the 2021 is the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. You're right. Now art, we see that the art contributes to the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, how is the ecosystem? How is the environment of an artist, and especially from a developing country? You have been very interesting projects in developing countries. So you discuss and get in touch with different artists in developing countries that don't have the same means or the same environment as in Europe or the US or any other country that's more developed. The ecosystem, how is that ecosystem if we see it from the perspective of the artist? The artist needs some ideas, needs to feel sensations and experiences, memories, and then they translate it into a creative idea, whether this is a drawing, whether it's music, whether it's literature, this idea. But there's a need for an environment for that idea to grow, for that artist to really have all the means at hand that can feed into that process of creation. And then, of course, not only the creation, it's the production as well. Then from the production, we can see that there's the dissemination of the distribution of that piece of art, of that object, or that artistic creation, the exhibition as well. And then later the consumption. I mean, the artists consume. How do you see, I mean, what are the elements that as an artist they need to have at hand? And with this, I want to see your perspective from what is needed in a country to nurture that idea. And we talk about the key words. That was inspiration. I mean, inspiration is one thing. You can be very inspired, but if you don't have the means to put that into paper, put that into music, put that into a film or into a book, then inspiration is wasted and we don't get the most. So on your perspective, on your experience, Khalid.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, for a lot of communities, especially in the global South, I mean, you talk to a lot of people about art and they think of it as something that's privileged, very privileged, you know, because they say, you know, we don't have electricity, or we don't have water, or we don't have, you know, education, we don't have health system. Why should we care about art, right? And they're absolutely right. But, you know, we should see things as parallel. You know, all these things should grow together, and they actually need each other to grow. So for an artist which could create, you know, a creative economy, could change actually the economy. I mean, there's a theory in the art world. It's called the Bilbao effect, right? And Bilbao is a town in a city in Spain, and it was a more or less a very unknown city, just industrial and everything. And I think a mayor at the time had this crazy idea of building a museum, right? Building a museum with a star architect and having a nice collection there, and starting something that's called a cultural tourism, right? And they brought in Frank Gehry, who built, you know, he's a famous architect, and they had a deal with the Guggenheim in New York, and they've built the Guggenheim Bilbao, right? The amazing, you know, star architect, an amazing building, and that changed the country. That changed the whole town. I mean, it's now known as a study case in the art world as the Bilbao effect, right? How can art change the economy of a place and just kind of revive it in that way? And this is exactly what happened. And this is what could happen in our countries as well. But we need that leader. We need someone to take that initiative and do it, and has the support to do it, the financial support, has the and has the leader support as well to do it. Other than that, we're just going to be stuck in one stage of that chain, and it will never finish. Because if you have a good school, right, which the good school needs resources, and you need libraries, and you need inspiration, as you said. But if you have inspiration and you don't have the production means, then you're going to get stuck there. If you have production means, no matter how low it is, they're going to get stuck in the next stage, which is actually where you're going to sell this work, right? And this is kind of, in a lot of our countries, is that this is the issue, that you get stuck in a place where am I going to sell this work? Who's interested in this work, right? There's no collectors, for example. There's no people that, there's no consumers for this art, right? Or at least the ones that can afford to buy it and keep you, working and keep the industry going. So how do we do that? So what happens is that agencies come in, or foreign governments or whatever, they come in, and they, in the art world, this is what we call the NGOs filming, or the NGOs art, right? Is that, you have to do a film about FGM in Africa, right? That's how you're going to get paid, and that's the only reason why you could keep doing art. So you have to do films that kind of fit into that stereotype, that builds a bigger stereotype, that that we can't really get out of it. So even though it's important, but we're not doing other works. There has to be some other work for this to work as well. So it's really independency, and it's the courage to give the artist the freedom, and which is one of the words as well that was mentioned there, to use their creativity to, and to work for something that's not only is inspiring, but it's inspiring for him, but it's also inspiring for the country, and it's inspiring for the receiver in that country, a person that's not really engaged in in museums and galleries or whatever. These are things that are really out of reach for, I don't know, like 90% of the population, let alone acquiring work or buying, So it's really about supporting that chain to work, right? Each one of it is very important, right? But if we're doing work for a foreign crowd, we're not doing it for us, we're doing work for tourists, then that doesn't work anymore, right? So that's the same thing. So we need to do and support artists to do work for the country, whether it's like in the education, or whether it's in supporting these artists get the best education, or supporting them make the best work, or supporting them talk about their freedom and their expressions. And this is what happens, like in any revolution anywhere in the world throughout time. The first thing that happens is art, because this is how people see that there's something different, and there could be a different world. If you don't show people there's a different world, they're never going to see it. And art is the tool to show people that, that there is a different world. So for example, I worked with a great team to kind of think about what is an alternative way, what is an alternative method that we can, that an artist or someone that wants to support the art in the global South, or even in the Western world as well, how can they do that without being involved, or without being too attached, or how do you do that in a way that's very contemporary, that's without any strings attached and all of that, and just the touch of your phone. So we worked in a project, and the project was called Fada, and Fada in Arabic means space, right? And it's a platform that we've built with the help of Open Society Foundation. And Fada basically is a platform that you can go and you say, I would like to donate my garage, I would like to donate my camera, I would like to donate my bedroom, I would like to donate my guitar, my 3D printer, every Wednesday from 6 to 12 to people who are working in, I don't know, gender studies, for example, or whatever, or just keep it open. Or this wall is an open Fada, you can come and you can draw in it. And so let me write it for you guys here. So it's basically about creating an alternative route for artists to create, and helping you to be an art patron without having, and you can do this like once a week, you can do this once a year, you can do this once and never do it again. And it's all about just kind of keeping people creating, because in a country or in a space that doesn't have spaces for people to work, doesn't have spaces for people to show their work, there's what else are you going to do? There's nothing you can do at all. So to keep it sustainable, and all of this is free and it's online, and think of it more, it's not like it's not an Airbnb, it's more like a Wikipedia that that you build upon, right? Or a couch surfing, for example. You invite people over, they do their thing, and they leave. So it's if you want them again, you can have them again. So it's a very simple solution that I'm working on now, and we're testing. So we have, we've pushed out a little bit. I had the money to build it, but I didn't have the money to market it and to build a proper team as well. So we're still looking for funding and stuff like that. But until today, we have spaces. We have a space in Ecuador. We have 2 spaces in Khartoum. We have people that come and go here and there. So this is kind of one of the solutions that you think of that comes out of need. And that's what I'm talking about, being innovative, right? Because when you're stuck in a one chain, right? You have to go to a Western art school, make Western looking art, to sell it to Western audiences, right? To show it at Western museums, right? So how are we benefiting everyone else? If you have to fit on that box, right? So if in places like in Sudan or in Egypt or in whatever, you can't really produce this kind of art. You don't have a place to produce it. You don't have a place to show it. So we're kind of doing sharing economy, right? So you help the artists do their work. You give them space to do their work, and you can give them a space and they can do a show. So it's really up to you as an art patron. And it's kind of it's slow, but it's kind of working. And hopefully that it's gonna catch at some point, and we can do things. But again, it needs a team, and it needs like proper planning and so on. But everyone is working as a volunteer.
Yeah, that's a fascinating page I visited, and I think that that comes to, introduces the area of new technologies because it's a sharing economy. And it also builds upon the ecosystem that needs to be there at the access, at the hand of the artist, so they can put their inspiration into a physical or tangible piece of art. And it's part of the sequence of events that needs to be there and connected and at hand: the creation, the production, the exhibition, the dissemination, that workshop that they can go and do their work. And then you also touch upon the consumption. That the freedom of expressing on the art is the art for the people in the country, not necessarily the Western lines of thought, but it's also the freedom. On this, one key element is the inspiration and the artist. And as we have discussed, it is not easy for an artist to develop and to grow and to have your experience. It has to be the artist, in order to continue, I imagine it has to be a lot of resilience, saying you go and you hit the wall, but you need to continue, not be resilient. And one of the things is to build that resilience in the artist, because that's something very emotional sometimes. That if the artist who has a very good creativity and all these elements, intrinsic elements to create good art, is disappointed of the system, is disappointed. How do you can you share something on this intrinsic resilience that need to be built or support the artist? Maybe not build, but support the artist.
Yeah. As I said, art, and as all of you have agreed, art freedom is a big part of it. Freedom is a huge part of it. So yes, artists need space. Yes, artists need support, but what they need most is freedom for them to explore, and ask questions, right? And if they don't have that freedom, there's no use. It's going to be also, a fake bubble basically of people saying, you know, to each other, kind of like, oh, you're good, no, you're good, and it's just, and that's gonna be it, you know. My work is quite different because I work in politics, and I'm, you know, as a political cartoonist, it's incredibly hard, actually, because it's you're not only you're not only working against giants, you know, you're not only working in a space that a lot of the world leaders right now don't accept to be challenged, don't accept to be asked questions, don't accept, you know. And of course, with the rise of you know, fake news and disinformation and so on, and the flood of information, actually, to stand out and say the truth or ask a proper question, it's you know, it's quite hard. And again, you know, you need to be employed, right? So in a lot of places, you kind of just back up. I was very lucky because I well, I don't know if I was lucky, but I was because of my work, I got into a lot of situations, and I ended up in a residency that is for artists and writers at risk. There's a lot of us, you know, and it's really sad to see the state of expression, of freedom of expression right now. And it's not only from, you know, terrorists, or it's not only from, it's also from governments, and sometimes from Western governments as well. So it's you know, like, as we've seen, you know, a few days ago, 2 days ago, actually, I could, you know, they put a plane down to get the journalist out from a civilian plane. So it's very hard, and artists are part of that. You know, artists are part of that sphere. Artists are part of that of trying to tell the truth and trying to answer the right questions. So it's not always easy, and you know, mental health has a lot of issues with it. Of course, just thinking about how are you going to survive, you know, and at what cost? But you know, because it's really easy to be, you know, just do popular things, do things that look nice, and people can put them on a t-shirt and you can sell them to anyone, and that's great. But how is that going to advance anything? How is that going to be asking the right questions and do, you know, and challenge the community, or even challenge yourself? Nothing, right? So for you to challenge yourself and challenge the community, you need to ask the right questions, and sadly the right questions piss off a lot of people. And that's what, again, is my language, and that's what's gonna and this is where artists really need to be resilient. But again, it's not an easy thing to be involved in, definitely.
No, I guess that's a lot to deal with rejection, and how to handle rejection. That you mentioned how to handle rejection, because without an artist, without the self-confidence of an artist to express, then the subsequent steps of the value chain will not take place. If there's no any idea, if there's no, then the rest is not that. Now, coming back to the value chain, we have a good comment from Ayman on what is needed on this ecosystem, from the artist as the seed that needs to grow, and with this to grow, it needs to have the proper soil, the proper nutrients, the proper sunlight, and all these other institutions that will have to work in harmony in order to develop that artist, that idea, whether it's into income generation opportunity, or whether it's more on the artistic, the exhibition. We in UNIDO, we work also with creative industries. We have some experience on creative industries. We have some experience on cluster development. And if we look at the art as an industry, because it is an industry, there's something that UNIDO can provide.
One second, I think I lost you. 1 second. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me, Khalid?
1 second. I'm trying to fix it. Yeah. All right.
Yes. So coming back to the value chain, we see that we in UNIDO we have experience on creative industries supporting the industrialization of art in a way to support clusters in different value chains. How do you see the role of organizations like UNIDO? I mean, you mentioned maybe all NGOs that they put their support in different parts of the value chain and different institutions. How do you see the support of UNIDO? Because we also work with everything that is needed around the artistic. I mean, the production of industries like paper, color, texture, fabrics. All these materials are inputs for at certain point in the value chain for the artist. So how do you see the role of international organizations and more specifically like UNIDO?
Yeah, I think UNIDO has really interesting programs, especially for, as you said, like the textile stuff that Hassan told me about, and it's really interesting. But for me, I think the organizations really need to kind of try to serve what the artist will do in a way that it doesn't have to work within its I know it needs to work within its limits, of course, but it also needs to look at what the countries that they're serving, look at the artists, what they're serving, and give them a sort of a leeway of freedom to work with them, not work for them, into creating something, right? So I think it's very important to work with the artists, work with the creative community to figure out the solutions and build your programs according to that. So I think it's very important. And I work a lot with international organizations, and the reason why I'm here is because of international organizations. But it's also there's a gap as well that I think needs to be filled with first communication between the organizations and the artists, and then the organization are the artist and the community, right? So I think it's these things must be really important to kind of avoid doing NGO art.
Thank you, Khalid. I think we've been discussing a lot. I know you have something really good to show. I think just before we prepare, there's a documentary, I mean, a short video documentary, I would say that is really, really good that we would like to share. Before that, I think we can present the next question on Steve, on have you considered art as a possible dimension for implementing the mandate of UNIDO? I mean, I know we have in the audience different colleagues that manage projects that work in different areas. So the next question is, have you ever considered arts as a possible dimension for implementing the mandate of UNIDO? And I think if the answer is no, I think there's a great avenue of creativity and inspiration on our projects that we can add that part to the different to the mandate of UNIDO. For those who have just joined, the link is in the chat. You have to log in using the code. And it seems that, yes, it's an unexplored. Well, now we have more yes than no's. Let's wait a couple of some more seconds. I think we can have a last refresh on this. So 63% they have considered art as a possible dimension for implementing the mandate of UNIDO. We have some projects on creative industries, on innovation, on clusters, but I think there's still a lot of opportunity for UNIDO to embark in supporting the art industry and the value chain of art industry at the different steps of that value chain. Before going to the Q&A, I would like to now present this documentary. And it shows the way to I will not comment on the documentary. I will leave for the audience. Khalid, you want to say something about the documentary while Steve puts it?
Sure. So as I said, you know, what I do every day is that I do cartoons on things that that interest me. And being a third culture kid, and you know, growing up from country to country, and being here as some sort of a you know, a guest, and seeing how the refugees were called the refugee crisis in Europe and so on, and because you know, I'm in the middle, you know, I speak you know, the language. I've seen where most of these refugees come from, and I know the politics of it, and I've also been, you know, in the West, and you know, in the US or in Europe, and also see how the receiving parts see it. So I think the hardest thing for a lot of people is to put themselves in somebody else's shoes, and knowing the circumstances. I worked a lot with refugees in different projects, whether in Italy or in Greece or even here. I've done this film in 2017, sorry. I was teaching in a university in the States, and this is a project that I've done with a few friends. And basically, what I've done was that I've asked people online to send me videos of refugees at sea. And it all started from seeing these videos that were sent around in WhatsApp. You know, a lot of people send, you know, those videos at the time, at the height of it, you know. So a lot of videos, you see a lot of videos of just people dying or you know, people trying to cross the sea or whatever. And I saw this video of a Sudanese man, and he's in a boat, and he's filming, you know, and he's filming and he's jumping, you know, over people, and you don't know if these people are dead or alive or whatever. And he's just, you know, he's taking the video and he's talking to the people. He's just filming it, you know, he's not broadcasting or anything. There's no internet, so he's just filming it in case they make it, you know. So it's kind of like a message in a bottle, right? And he's saying that, look, what's around us, you know, if I have to do this again, I will never do it. It's like all that's around us is sea, and it's just going around like this, you know. And so that really touched me, and I started gathering all these videos and asking people to send me, and I sat around with my student assistant, and I called a friend of mine who's a musician, who's also a refugee actually in the US, but he now graduated from music school there as an amazing artist. And we put together this film, which I basically clipped all these images that all these videos that I've collected. I have no idea who these people are. I have no idea where these people are now. I have no idea what happened, but these videos ended up online, different websites, and people sending me and stuff. So it's called Bahar, which means sea. Yeah, I'll let you watch it.
طب ما معوش خريطة؟
خلص قولي يا رب انت امشي اي منطقة كله ينال، المهم نوصل على اليونان.
يا اخي كيف تحكوا؟
ولا يابا فينا ما نعرف نسبح.
عمالك يا شباب عمالك.
موجود يا شباب جي بي اس تبعه شغال والله بيلحقونا عليه.
يا اخي والله يلحقونا ويمسكونا.
ما بيعرف
طفي يا اخي ما تخلونا نطفي يعني.
يجيب لنا بطارية.
بطارية.
ولا وايد حبنا نزيد. خلاص
لك واحد يرفع له ولد صغير يا شباب.
يرفعوا له اولاد صغار.
لك يرفعوا له الاولاد الصغار.
تآمنوا عشان تآمنوا. شايف ده بحر 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 بحر.
بحرية
يا ريس.
شرقية
يا ريس.
والبحر كويس
يا ريس.
وصلنا حبيبي
يا ريس.
وريحة أراضينا
يا ريس.
يا ريس
تعبان صار يومين منام. يا ريس.
يلا يا بابا وصلنا الحمد لله. سوف يأتي يوم نقول لأطفالنا كيف لجأنا إلى أوروبا وكيف غرق السوريين وكيف مات آلاف الشهداء. سوف يأتي يوم نقول لهم أن بلاد العرب وبلاد الإسلام كانت أقرب إلينا لكن أغلقوها في وجهنا. سوف يأتي يوم يكبر أطفالنا ويقولون فليسقط رؤساء العرب.
Well, this is speechless, and this just gives us the great importance and the great role that we have to avoid these type of situations. The work that we're doing in developing countries is exactly to prevent this type of situations. That's our reason of being. And I think this is very touching, this, and should remind us of our daily work. Why are we doing what we're doing? Is to avoid these type of situations, to have peace, achieve prosperity in developing countries, so people don't need to leave their homelands for a better life, or to escape or to survive. We have extended a bit. There's a couple of things. Before that, I think we can open the floor to questions. So if anyone, please feel free to contribute. Hassan.
Hi. Well, this was a very, very touching movie. We still think we can do better to keep people at home. In fact, according to my information for long service in UNIDO, I guess 8 years ago or 10 years ago, UNIDO, they have started to implement such projects, for catastrophe and so forth, but it was not very successful because of our internal procedures. It takes a long time to realize the funds and then you start. However, I want to ask a question, and actually this question for everyone and for Khalid as well, concerning UNIDO projects. UNIDO projects, they are always like, they call them sustainable projects. And within the sustainability, we have always 3 pillars. Is technology and know-how, and then we have the social impact in our projects. And here particularly, I remember we have huge projects, concerning women and for women development and empowerment of women and so forth, and even entrepreneurship projects also, concerning for women. And I remember one of our last projects in Madagascar. This was a very famous project, and this project even taking care of the women to the extent of the health care of the women. So when you have that picture, you're gathering a women to train them or to teach them throughout the day. Women, they're always in our culture or in everywhere, they will come with kids and with jobs with young people. So I was thinking loud, like if the art can be one of our objectives of our projects, that where when the kids are there, then the art can be taught to those kids. And then, of course, I can dream, but I was thinking out of these kids, some of them, they will really get free education from the project. And then they will get, the women, they will be also focused while they are being trained. And then the kids, they will be taken care of separately. Exactly the same level of the health care of the women. So my question here is that projects or the art for those kids can be done easily? This also, JP, you can help us from internal procedure. If this can be integrated in one of the projects to make, like, you know, the same like fair trade or all those things, you know, for the kids, and then your marketing, you know, also the paintings or drawings or whatever, if that can be done from UNIDO perspective, or this has to be done with the, you know, with the UNESCO. I mean, I was just loudly speaking. There is no particular thing, but is that a possibility to train young people, you know, in UNIDO and the UNIDO projects? This is my question. Thank you.
Well, I think I can, before I give my answer or my perspective, I don't know if anyone from UNIDO would like to contribute to this question, whether there's something that we can do. I guess no. I think we have a key role as UNIDO, because you know that we depend on donor funding for technical assistance projects. We don't have our own budgets to develop these large projects. I mean, we do have to start a project or to design a project, but at the end, to materialize a project, we rely on donor funding. And I think that's the key opportunity that we have to also to influence the thinking of donors and how to redirect the projects to address the sustainability and the sustainable development goals, depending on whether it's environment, whether the people, whether it's the planet, the people, or the prosperity. And definitely, I think, as you have seen, and in my experience, arts is not really a big industrial sector that we are working on. And we work on some parts of that value chain. For example, the distribution, the industrialization of arts or artistic crafts of a country to develop, to access markets. But definitely it is something that we can start thinking how to integrate, because the impact is enormous. I think the impact to add arts or the artistic part to our work is enormous, and we have not exploited as we should. It is a creative industry, definitely, and we work on innovation, which is also, okay, how do we bring that idea into the market, into the production? It is a similar process. I see Frank Hardwick has his hand up, and I know he's really into value chains. Frank?
Yeah, look, I'm still also a bit touched of what we have seen there, and I mean, it also it gives evidence to the power of images. You asked a bit what else can we do from UNIDO's side, and asked people from UNIDO to also raise their hand and maybe say something. So I feel maybe we should say something. And I mean, UNIDO is a political place, yeah, and there is a day-to-day work, and you know, there's a project document, you get money, and then you kind of start doing your work. And I mean, I think in all of this, we need to also kind of have our ethical grounds kind of straightened out, yeah. And I think UNIDO is not the place where you can say no, or say, you know, I want another component in my project because I think we need to kind of do a bit more on the social aspects. But I think it is up to all of us to rub that information in and have the decision makers also see that we could do a bit more, yeah. And I also, I mean, I've been working at other places, and I see that there is a certain, once you have a project or so, you have certain liberties of doing certain things, yeah, more than you have eventually in many other organizations where there is development aid money, yeah, and so we should maybe take that opportunity and calibrate our ethical grounds and make sure that our projects have impact, yeah. It's not just about spending the money, but it's about looking at the impact, the at the end impact on social grounds that are important. Yeah. Maybe one more note. I mean, I came to development because, among others, I was intrigued by the photos of one particular photographer, Sebastião Salgado, who basically threw away his career in the World Bank as a development worker because he said that doesn't help so much, but I want to document. I go out and I take photos. He got a camera, a Leica in Paris, and started to take photos. And this is what some of the best photos ever, and they have been actually influencing the world on understanding what the Sahel crisis was, famine and workers' conditions in Brazil and all kinds of things. And this is an important dimension. We need to use it for our purpose, but it goes with a lot of responsibility. We need to use money we have at UNIDO in a good way. And yeah, I don't have any shortcuts there, but I think it's also the ethical conviction that we all should have in what we're doing.
Thank you very much for that, Frank. That was, I really suffer a lot with that, because I'm always looking for funding for projects like whatever, like Fada, or now for the last year I've been trying to build a library in Sudan, and this project has been so hard to convince people to build a library in a country that doesn't have a public library. Right? We have all these organizations, we have all these peace building initiatives, especially now after the revolution. We have all of these, but they're not interested in building a library, which is just bottom line of how to have a common place for the community, to have a public sphere so people can talk to. I have been to every organization from UNESCO to everyone that's in Sudan with a file in my hand, with everything saying that we need to build a library, right? And when I go to private investors and I say, I have this project, I want to build a library, and they say bookshop. I'm like, no, I don't want to sell anything. This is a library, and they say bookshop, and it's really sad, right? That they don't, they don't see the use of a library to a community that's just came out of 30 years dictatorship, So at the end, I resulted with Gotha Institute, which I worked in. I worked with to do a project, this book here called Sudan Retold, and it's also about retelling the stories of Sudan, so the young people can actually have some they feel value of themselves, they feel value of where they come from, and retell our stories. So we tell our history, which was almost entirely written by non-Sudanese, right? And the same goes for the whole region. It's not only in Sudan, So telling artists to rewrite history and the future of Sudan. So from that project, I realized that most of the artists that I've worked with don't have any access to books. They don't even have access to comic books. There's nothing. There's no art books, right? I donated my collection, my personal collection of books. It's all housed in Gotha Institute right now, right? We have a small place where people can go, even though it's a bit of a kind of a privileged space as well. It's not accessible to most people, but it's actually doing a lot of work in Sudan. So I have all my collection there. But the next move I see to that is that why don't we build a library? So now I'm trying to build a mobile library. I'm just going lower and lower, right? Just to kind of fit in the idea that we just need a library, and we had a competition to design the mobile library. We're going to announce the winner in the next 2 weeks, and then I'm just going to again take that same file and just go around and asking people for money to build a library. That I don't understand if you're talking about development, if you're talking about peace building, if you're talking about any program at all, how can a library not be part of that? If I'm not doing it right, if I'm not doing it the right way, tell me, and I'll give you take the product. You do it. Someone needs to do this. If the government doesn't have money to do it, the civil society doesn't have money to do it, the international organizations don't want to do it. How are we ever gonna, how are we gonna move forward? If we just keep going into the same sphere of doing things, and then you're gonna see all these boats coming back again, because that's obviously, they need to stay for something, and there's steps to it, So it's really sad doing that. Just, it's just going around and trying to explain to people, highly educated people that come from Western countries, why a country like Sudan needs a library. Do you imagine? It's very degrading, actually. I'll send you all the website. You can take a look at it and tell me if anything is wrong. This is all just me trying to do things with people. So please take a look at it and help as much as you can with contacts or with anything,
I think that's key information that we can have and share, I guess, to all the participants and people who can look into their projects to see how we can contribute and add this art dimension to our common projects or to projects. We have one question. How creative industry can contribute to peace building?
I think it's part of it. It's a huge part of it. I mean, peace building is about having common grounds, right? And art does that common ground through music, through film, through things that relate to that community, that brings them together, shows them the what's in common, instead of what we always see, which is what's the difference between us, right? And it's having an industry, having making sure that this the peace building part of it is economical as well. So giving the people, the artists, a chance to work, they will help their community, and then at least there'll be some kind of settling to a certain extent.
If there are any other questions, please raise your hand or write in the chat. One last one. I think we need to start wrapping up.
Yeah.
Just last question. How do you see new technologies changing the environment of arts? I know you have these platforms, these websites, this sharing economy, how technology has contributing to this sharing economy. Yeah. How do you see the impact now and the future impact of new technologies into the art?
As an independent artist, the internet gave me the access to be here, to talk to people, to jump over these borders that we always had. And one of them is language. So a person like me doesn't get a visa to go anywhere. I don't, it's very hard for me to travel. But through the internet, my voice has traveled through and I've met a lot of people, and I collaborated with a lot of people. But sadly, now the internet that we've known, and the internet that we've worked with for the longest time is now occupied. It's totally, it's ran by ad agencies, and it's ran by big tech, and it's all about who's selling you more ads and who's bringing more data in. So that neutrality of the internet is gone. Hopefully, the EU at least is doing a really good job at working on that, but it's definitely gone. The internet that I've worked on now, I know a lot of people that get arrested for tweets and even just for posting things, or or just even in private chats, it's watched. So, and these are facts. They're not even, these are absolute facts of surveillance and censorship and so on. So when I decided to do these projects, whether it's the library or whether it's the platform to connect people that want to support artists. It was all about getting out of the internet, and trying to figure out a way to work together until we can figure out how to go back on again online and do this work. So it's all about building small communities, right? And again, the Corona hit, and then everyone is on Zoom, and we have to go back again to work. And sadly, that created more billionaires than any other time because of that rush online. Technology now for art, the blockchain, the NFTs has been, it's a creative boom right now. Using the blockchain technology, that you make an NFT, which is basically you make an original work, and that could be traced and passed on, and the artist makes money and so on, and it has to do a lot as well with the cryptocurrency and all of that. So the NFTs is now a huge part of the art world. It's definitely the next move. It's taking to a next level, the same people who are in the galleries and making millions outside of the internet are now making millions inside of the internet. So it's a bit of a struggle trying to, but of course, the blockchain really helps with the independency, at least to some sort. But what I am trying to do is I'm trying to reach communities that don't even have enough electricity to work on a blockchain or to be on the computer for that much. So that's why I'm trying to work really basic level. I'm trying to forget about all my work in politics. I'm trying to forget about all my, because working as a political cartoonist, after a while, and especially for the last 4 years, you kind of realize that you're never going to win. This is never going to end. And it's just an ongoing bullying, really, and the internet now is whatever that used to be is different. So that's why I resorted to taking a step back and trying to do simple projects, which I thought were simple, like building a library, for example. So technology has a lot to offer, but in places where we would like to work, and I would like to work now, like in Sudan or in the global South, it's a step, it's a bit of a step forward now with what's going on. So I would like to really look realistically at what can be done, and have people look at real books and people talk to each other, because we really need that. We still have that, but we need that more, because in a country like Sudan, where there was a dictatorship for 30 years that didn't allow us to have normal conversations, really. We need to do that now. We need to have public spaces so people can talk and think and be creative. And it's happening in the West as well. It's not only happening with us. It's also happening in the West. It's the same. We're all going through the same wave of disinformation, which are pushed by the same people, sadly.
Thank you. It's very, very interesting that the censorship in internet with new technologies. I mean, some people may say, yeah, it gives you more freedom, but not exactly. Or do you think technology gives us more freedom as an artist? I mean, you talk about censorship, and it does.
I mean, for someone like me, I don't have a choice. I know that my accounts are watched. I know that and the biggest proof of of censorship is what's been going on for the last 2 weeks, that Instagram and Facebook are censoring anything that comes out of Palestine, and even the hashtags are being censored, and that's quite okay. Nobody said anything. So it was direct censoring to journalists, to activists, right? And then afterwards, like after the protests that happened in Palestine, in Sheikh Jarrah, and all of this that was going on now, because of the tracking on the phones, it's the same technology that was used to to know the I'm sorry, I'm losing my English. The protesters that attacked the Congress, right? It was also had a lot to do with their locations and their phones or where they were at the moment. And this is the same technology that's being adapted now as well to kind of mass arrest all the protesters right now. So it's really, technology is a double sword, and we're getting stabbed by both of them.
Thank you, Khalid. I think we have gone beyond the plan. It has been fascinating to be able to discuss with you, to see your perspective. I think we have learned a lot of what can be done, and I think we have homework to do at our side. Before closing, we would put two more questions on the screen. One is about new technologies, because everybody's talking about the fourth industrial revolution and how new technologies will impact. You touch upon that. And the next question is on the relationship between art and technology. So again, go to menti.com. So where do you think would be greater relationship between art and technology, and applications between technology and art? And Khalid already mentioned one of the technologies. Seems he has got some influence in the audience. Yes, blockchain, 3D printing. Okay, we are updating. Still, blockchain has art on technology. One of the examples that Khalid mentioned is tracing the originals, let's say digital originals. And so artists can use this to claim that they're original and also make business out of real royalties. And this piracy has also something to do with piracy. And now we see that 3D printing is, of course, the prototypes and new arts in the plastic art dimension. I guess 3D printing is really important and will have an impact and a very big relationship. The next, okay, we update digitization. The next question, and the last one to close before I give any closing remarks to Khalid and to Hassan. Steve, can you put the next which SDG do you think could benefit more from introducing an art dimension? SDG 4 on quality education has the most of the votes so far. Quality education, SDG 4. We see also gender equality. Can you update one more time? Then we see other SDGs also coming. And I think one of the topics is that art can communicate, can build, change perceptions on any of the SDGs, and it can be used, it can be applied, and can benefit. I think a good conclusion that all SDGs can benefit from the art dimension. And with that, then we finalize the talk this afternoon. Khalid, before giving the floor to our President of the Staff Council, Khalid, any final words from your side? Now you're muted.
You're muted should be like the word of the word of COVID times. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored. Thank you very much, Hassan and JP and Steve for putting this together. I'm very honored, and for me, you know, it's whoever I can reach and talk to is you know, it's sadly it's great, but it's also a lot of work to try to convince people, you know, how important is art and how important is innovation and creativity in dealing with a lot of the issues that the world is dealing with now, and just to make someone sees the other side. So you know, I hope I didn't talk too much, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Khalid. I think we will learn. Hassan, due to close. And thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I always say thank you to everyone, all of you. We in the Staff Council here, we are very happy to serve our colleagues, and our colleagues, they're serving us, and they're always there attending our events. Let me announce to you our next event. It will be a live music on the 7th of June. This was the second one. And my colleague Frank, when I was in finance, we always used to have our problems. But now Frank is always one of our regular visitor of this platform. And we wanted in our agenda for the next Eminent Speaker Series, because previously we did a private sector, and then we did the blockchain, and today is the art and industry, and you know, and then the next one most probably it will be about AI, like artificial intelligence. We wanted to ask so many colleagues also to come and moderate it, but the ladies, they have, you know, protested. They said, look, this is now the third session and you didn't give the ladies a chance, you know, to present. But all our colleagues, they will be giving the opportunity to moderate this event, which is one of the platforms that we started. And it's really a very great opportunity for all of us to come and sit down and brainstorm. And it helped us all in this organization to, you know, to give the thoughts as maximum as we can. This organization is always standing with its people, and we are very proud to serve our colleagues in this organization. In the end, I want to thank you all wherever you are in this world, and we hope to see you soon again in one of our next events. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you.